Hey, everybody. It's On Texas Football Early Signing Day live stream special. You're seeing a lot of smiling faces in the boxes there. Bobby, you can smile, man. Come on, give us the big everyone. He's looking at a text messages. This guy's always busy. He's been at it up early this morning. It's been an incredibly great day for the University of Texas football program, the 2024 signing class. Hit on almost all of them. We'll talk about one that didn't quite hit, but that's at the end of the show. We're going to go about 45 minutes or so. We're going to discuss Coach Steve Sarkisian's news conference he just had at 3:30. Our CJ Vogel, there he is wearing the ball cap down in the bottom box right there. He was in attendance for Steve Sarkisian's news conference, had some great questions. You see Bobby Burton on the top, Rod Babers, lifetime Longhorn, and CJ Vogel. CJ, we're going to start with you. What'd you think about what Coach Sarkisian had to say? Anything jump out at you as you listened to his answers?
No, absolutely. I thought it was a good press conference. Exactly what you wanted to hear from a coach that has a lot at stake currently on his tray moving forward to bowl season for the Texas Longhorns. Texas, again, the recurring theme that I continued to hear leading up to today, and then also when Sarkisian got on the press conference was, one, not only the talent that Texas was bringing in, along with the versatility that each prospect brings to the table, but it also is the kind of character and the kind of player that they are off the field, the kind of person they are off the field. And I think that speaks a lot to what we have talked a lot about in terms of what the culture is currently on the 40 acres. What kind of players are being addressed, how they're being or going about the portal even, and targeting what, kind of specific players they want to bring into their locker room. That was a recurring theme, and he spoke at length about, just kind of the good, heartedness, the kind-heartedness, the people that and players that they are adding in this class. There's a lot of optimism, and Sarkisian was, in a great mood as a result of, a almost perfect day when you consider who Texas was able to bring in.
Hey, Bobby, I think you may have referenced it earlier. Please go ahead if you'd like to, but I wanted to ask you about what Jeff Banks said earlier today about culture, how they're making sure that they get the type of guy that they want on the team. And so if you want to go in that direction, you're welcome to, but I'll listen to what you had to say too, sir.
Yeah, I really liked the Sark presser. I liked what Rod and I talked about this earlier today as well, about what Jeff Banks had to say. Look, I want to go back to this more than anything. They're being selective. Mm-hmm. Now, that doesn't mean they can be, when you were 5 and 7, you couldn't be ultra selective. You couldn't be. You had to take guys like a Jai Hall in the portal. Jaleel Billings. You had to, because you had major holes to fill that if you didn't, you might be playing a true freshman out there instead, when you knew that wasn't what's best really for the team to be competitive. Now you hear them talk about the portal. You hear them talk about some of the high school players, and it's all about fit. And that's the trajectory, or that's the roadmap of the program, right? To go from 5 and 7 and a newcomer to 8 and 5 and getting your wheels going, your training wheels are going, to now 12 and 1, where you should be fully operational, right? And they're showing that they're fully operational. Next year, this is just me saying this, Texas is going to have a top 5 class today. We can go over the national team rankings. My bet is Texas is somewhere in the top 3 a year from now when we're talking about this recruiting class, because of what they're doing right now, because of the inroads they've made. All of that stuff is just leading to Sark upping the ante, in my opinion. Plus, they're entering the SEC full time. Just all of those things tell me, whether it's Jeff Banks talking about it or Steve Sarkisian talking about it, it's just that upward trajectory where I don't think they're finished rolling down. I don't think the snowball's finished rolling down the hill. It's still rolling. We're just watching it right now.
Hey, Rod, as we look at some of the national rankings there, we see Texas currently sitting in 4th place there. So not shabby company there. Georgia, Alabama, Ohio State, the usual suspects. They're at 1 through 3. I don't know if you got a chance to see much of Coach Sarkisian's news conference, but just your impressions on what happened today, some of the players who signed with Texas and how they would fit into the program moving forward.
Yeah, I think, this class specifically, for me, just the way I'm looking at things, early on the roster construction for Sark, it was pretty obvious. I don't know if I can say selfishly, but he's an offensive guy. He's the head coach, play caller. Want to build the offense first, right? That's it's his offense. He wanted to build it first. It's pretty obvious. Look at the quarterback room. Look at the big humans on the offensive line in the trenches there. Hell, he brought Xavier with him, Xavier Worthy with him pretty much when he first came to Texas. So they rebuilt and construct the offense. Took JT Sanders, a guy that's a 5-star athlete, could have played offense, could have played defense. Well, with Sark, he's playing offense. And we agree the offense is in a really good place. I mean, we all thought, man, the running game is going to have a real regression when Bijan and Rojo leave. Naturally, of course it is, right? You got your best leader and your best player leaving that room, going to the NFL. Of course it's going to regress. Yeah, well, did it? It did, maybe, kind of. I don't know if it did, actually, because Charlie Brooks was in the Doak Walker award conversation until he got hurt. And then when he gets hurt, you got CJ Baxter rushes for 100 yards in a game, and then Jaden Blue rushes for 100 yards in a game. You think to yourself, well, did the running game regress? That's actually a conversation that we can have. So that's the offense is fine. This class represents, I think, kind of what they're doing to rebuild the defense. They brought in some pieces they already like that they envision are going to be the future for PK's defense. And I think now they're constructing this defense. Anthony Hill's your movable chess piece. You got, now in this class, you're bringing in a Colin Simmons as that dynamic edge rusher to make splash plays in the secondary. And this class specifically looks like it's putting the finishing touches on the secondary. It started with Derek Williams, a coverage specialist at safety, which is he's already your best coverage safety, and he's a freshman. Tells you what they're already, kind of how they're building this thing. And then you got a guy like Xavier Phillips. To me, he almost looks like the kind of a prototype of what Derek Williams is. Long, rangy, can be a coverage specialist, can run the alley. You got I believe 5 DBs in this class that they're bringing in. So that includes Makuba as well. It looks like now they're, in terms of constructing the roster, they're building the defense specifically with these last couple of classes, and they're bringing in they're kind of guys, whether it be at the back end or even on the front and on the defensive line. That's kind of what I see with this class.
Hey, and Bobby and CJ, I'm going to throw out a couple of names at you. I see in the chat, and they've been coming up a few times. So I'll ask you to see if there's any development on Trey, the edge, Trey Moore, the edge from UTSA, and then Dalen Evans, who I guess Pine Tree and Longview, the defensive lineman who have been committed to A&M. Any late word on those two youngsters?
Yeah, let me take Trey Moore, and then I think I have some news on Dalen Evans. We need to get to that too. Trey Moore is still making up his mind as of 3:30 this afternoon. That's the last text I got on that situation. Now, Texas is hopeful there, but Alabama has made it interesting, and it is a Texas-Alabama match right now for the edge rusher from UTSA, who had 14.5 sacks last year, 17 tackles for loss. There's nothing new other than I would not say that this is definitely Texas or definitely Alabama. I think this is 50-50 right now. I actually don't think it's 50-50. As far as my knowledge, though, I wouldn't lean either way. I think the player probably knows where he's going already, but my feedback, what I'm getting, is straight down the middle. So, take that for what it is. That's number one. Dalen Evans is actually saying and told a reporter today that Texas was his dream school. However, he still may sign with Texas A&M later today. I think that starts at 5:00. Anyways, my point on all of this is we don't know what Dalen Evans is going to do. We do know that Texas, based on on Steve Sarkisian's comments today, I thought were very interesting. CJ, he's talking about, Steve Sarkisian said in his presser just moments ago, we absolutely have some more work ahead of us. And I think he talked about a wide receiver. We were talking about defensive line potentially. We were also talking about maybe some other positions that they want to slide in on and add to the group. What did you hear from that, CJ, that press conference that you were at to try to distinguish and give people a sense of what was said there?
Yeah, I mean, long day, Bobby, but we specifically know that Ty Anthony Smith is a guy that Texas is after right now. We know that linebacker is looking to get a guy in the fold right now in the 2024 class. Defensive line, the 3 guys that we have mentioned all week, whether it be Alex Foster, Dominic McKinley, or Dalen Evans, as you just talked about, Bobby, all 3 of them remain on the table. And we'll see just how the rest of the day follows suit, and then as well as it leaks into February for multiple of those guys as well. But the comment that really stood out to me, and it's been theorized amongst us and amongst guys on Twitter, the rest of the Texas football universe as well, was the need at wide receiver. And Sarkeesian mentioned it, up front, didn't try to hide anything. He said, you know what, we might not be done right now at the wide receiver position. And that's even with the addition of Matthew Golden and 3 guys in the 2024 class currently who all bring in, pretty unique skill sets. And so that was something that really stood out to me. And I think it obviously makes sense when you kind of consider what is ahead of Texas roster construction wise, as Rod was talking about earlier, and also trying to, kind of replicate the production and the experience that Texas will be losing following these last 2 games in the college football playoff. So that certainly stood out to me, and it will have to be on the lookout, Bobby, for just who Texas might potentially target. We've floated some names in the 2024 class. We've obviously been aware of, the Evan Stewart portal entry, and as well as, who else might enter the portal later on. That will be something we'll have to follow up with and just see just where Texas goes in their pursuit of adding another wide receiver.
Hey, Matthew Hutchison is go ahead, Bobby. You got a late breaking update for us?
Yeah. NCAA sent a notice of allegations to Jim Harbaugh.
Oh,
I think
his team has a big game coming up, right?
No, but this is not the first one that he already set out 3 games for. This is not the sign stealing scandal. Is now the NCAA sent Michigan and head football coach Jim Harbaugh a notice of allegations regarding previous recruiting violations that are unrelated to the ongoing investigation into the program's sign stealing scandal. According to The Athletic, the NCAA issued a level 1 violation against Harbaugh for, quote, allegedly providing false or misleading information into an investigation into recruiting infractions during the COVID-19 dead period. Look, he just needs to go on and go to the pros.
The Chargers
clearly doesn't understand the rules in college football. He just clearly doesn't understand.
I think he understands them. I think he thinks they're stupid. And he thinks, there's so stupid rules. I can violate them because I justify my, my brazen disrespect for these rules because they're dumb, antiquated rules, which they are, by the way. The headset communication, we all agree, stupid. And some of these recruiting recruiting bylaws and rules, they're stupid, especially in the modern era of recruiting. So I think you're right. He probably needs to go to the NFL because they don't have to worry about this. But yeah, man, these rules are ridiculous. That's why they do. What did Chip Kelly say? They need a commissioner, and it's time for the haves to separate from the have-nots. And it's time to start playing big boy football, y'all. All right, It's time. We all know. Give them a piece of the pie and let's move on. Seriously.
Hey guys, I want to add one other piece here. Jordan Whittington just earned an invite to the Senior Bowl as well. The University of Texas just put that news out. I want to add a couple other things here as we talk about this. In my opinion, right now, based on what I heard, another receiver, possibly an edge, possibly a linebacker. Sark specifically said, we've got some more things to do. We got a couple more things we're looking at doing here. And I took that to mean in the next 24, 48 hours. In the next 48 hours, I don't think that's going to be a receiver. I think he's talking about Trey Moore potentially and Ty Anthony Smith. CJ, you agree with that assessment right now for him? I think I think receiver may be later after the new year. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, certainly from the conversations that we've had with, guys throughout, the college football universe, it certainly makes sense with the timelines that have been presented to us. Obviously, Alex Foster wants to push back. Dominic McKinley was in that conversation as well. There's been a late surge for De'Alen Evans. And you've been in communications with Trey Moore's camp as well. And just how, kind of, up in the air a decision could be coming this week or not. So it is, looking like you said, the next 24 to 48 hours are going to be vital to see which of those positions are addressed. And Bobby, there are still a lot of teams playing college football right now. We'll see, just as this portal window continues, who departs following bowl games, which of these names might be attractive to Texas, and, really just who becomes available, I think will be interesting to watch as this portal window carries over into, January 2nd?
Yep. January 2nd is the last day to enter the portal. Now, one thing to note, there's a 48-hour window, Ray, that they talk about. Like, so you can enter the 2nd, but actually not have your name show up to the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
So realize when we're reporting on this, it could be the 2nd when you hear kid says, I put my name in the portal, but then he won't officially show up until the 4th. Schools have 48 hours to put the name actually in the portal and process the paperwork.
Gotcha. Hey, Matthew Hutchison, our esteemed producer, at 4:38 p.m., a poster named Trooper Green had kind of I think he's being a little bit sarcastic, but he's got a kernel of truth in his comment. Again, 4:38, Trooper Green. Now, Rod Babers keeps saying there's no way to negative recruit Texas. There is one. Immediate playing time is rapidly shrinking. Now, I see Bobby chuckle, but for example, receiver, the circle of trust. So let's kind of take Trooper Green's kind of glib comment and look at the reality of it. I'm glad Ryan Wingo didn't look at the rotation and think I may not get to see the field for 2 years because, John Tay didn't get as many opportunities as he may have received elsewhere. DeAndre Moore was on a podcast today that came out. I think it came out today.
Yeah, third and Longhorn.
What a great interview with this young man, and really impressed with him. He's not seen the field hardly at all, but he's got the best attitude you could possibly have. How does what Trooper Green say, again, kind of in a comical way a bit, but there's a little bit of truth to that, right?
No, it is. It's a great point he brings up because this is a first world problem, right? This is the issue that Georgia has and Bama has. That's their recruiters like, man, I might not play immediately because there's a five-star ahead of me. He's a really good player, and he's got, he's on NFL draft board, so I might not play that guy. So, you have to wait in terms of the development, and that's the pipeline I talk about, right? You're seeing it at D-line. Texas trying to get that linebacker where it's like, all right, next up, if you can earn the job at this program, you're probably an NFL guy. That's just the reality of it. That's what Bama does. Georgia does right now. Ohio State's got pipelines like that. If you're an Ohio State wide receiver, what do we know? Well, probably an NFL guy. It's hard to earn that kind of job with the competitive level, right? The competition level that they have there and not being an NFL guy. So I think that's what you're trying to develop. So you're right, Trooper Green. That's ultimately what Texas wants. But also Sark combats that by playing. If you're a prodigy, he'll play you. Right? If you're a prodigy, X-Man, CJ Baxter, Derek Williams, Anthony Hill, if you're a prodigy, he'll play you. And he rotates, except for wide receiver. Except for wide receiver and O-line, they like to rotate. Even running back now, we're seeing them rotate some guys and get in there. For a lot of positions, he'll rotate on defense. Sark on offense, he's pretty rigid. But on defense, hell, man, we've complained about too many rotations of guys because they're playing so many guys. So there are reps specifically on the team at different spots. So you're right. That's a first world problem, Trooper Green, and you want that problem. All right. That's like 4 or 5 universities around the country. That's exactly what they have. That's the key to the pipeline, though.
Hey, Bobby, the one recruit we didn't get today that had been committed was Aaron Hampton, Bubba from Dangerfield, picked Alabama instead. If we want to look at it negatively, I know some people are saying, well, he was probably the kid that was most likely to flip anyway. So there might have been an expectation there. Is the worst part of that losing the player Aaron Hampton or losing the battle to Nick Saban?
That's a great question. I don't know that I would say that it's losing to Nick Saban. I just don't. I mean, Nick Saban's going to get his no matter who he's going up against. Not that he's going to win every single one. He doesn't do that. Ultimately, my question was always going to be, what position is Aaron Hampton going to play? Was he going to be a wide receiver? Was he going to be a safety or corner or nickel? What position was he going to play? In that regard, I don't know that was a big, huge loss to Texas. And it didn't come out that way, in the national rankings. As part of that, I do think they could find another player in that category. Somebody's mentioned Aaron Butler as a receiver out of Calabasas, California, or Ryan Williams, a wide receiver out of Alabama that's a 2024, originally a 2025, a portal wide receiver, et cetera, that could fill those roles. I also think there's probably another DB out there that they could get in the portal if they wanted to, that could fill more immediate needs than Aaron Hampton. So it wasn't a major one. I don't think it was about Nick Saban. I think that it may make for a nice press release, but we've all seen nice press releases in recruiting. The real issue is, can they play on Saturday, and do they make your team better? And I feel really, really good about this recruiting class for Texas.
Sure.
I mean, I do, and I've been feeling good about it since the summer when they started tacking on. When you go from guys like Colin Simmons, and then Kobe Black, and then Zuna Umeozulu, and then Brandon Baker, they just hit 4 or 5. Wardell Mack changed. Xavier Filsaime. All of those guys, they just kept hitting, and it was a slow burn is what it was. It wasn't this avalanche. It was a slow burn. And then here at the end, it feels like an avalanche, because guess what? They put all the snow on top and it's ready to fall. You know what I mean? So I feel good about this. I don't think it has to do with Nick Saban, even though I guarantee you that he probably got a kick out of himself personally. It doesn't really do much.
Hey, let's mention that at 6:30 tonight, there might still be another player to grab over in Jasper, a linebacker. Want to tell us a little bit about Ty Anthony Smith?
Yeah, I'll let CJ, you want to do that real quick?
Yeah, I mean, talented ball player. I was very impressed with him, seeing him in 7-on-7 action, because at the linebacker position, a lot of times there's kind of a barrier, or kind of a hurdle that linebackers have in terms of whether I'm a run fitting first kind of guy, and I struggle in the passing game, or I'm more of a hybrid guy who struggles to plug holes in the run game. So Ty Anthony Smith, a guy who on tape is very, very explosive, running downhill, fitting the gaps, stopping the run, but also a guy who I watched play safety in 7-on-7. And we talked about it earlier, Rod. The impact of 7-on-7 at the linebacker position is something that it comes with its downfalls, but it also helps elevate and get prospects ready for the passing game that has become so prevalent across all of college football. So I love what Ty Anthony Smith brings to the table. The Texas linebacking core that we've seen over the last couple of years has been light years better than where it was under previous regimes. And again, Texas is looking at it like, we're only taking one linebacker this class, and we want it to be you. And that's why, the visit took place this past weekend. And we've obviously seen Ty Anthony Smith deeply consider his verbal pledge to Texas A&M, not only prior to this weekend, but on his visit and into this weekend, or into today's signing day festivities. And we'll see just that, around 6:15, 6:30, where he ultimately ends up wanting to be.
Hey, Matthew, UT parking, that comment you just added to the starred grouping, and that's a nice comment, and it reflects on Steve Sarkisian and his behavior, for lack of a better word, in the news conferences. It's a complete departure from what we were used to the prior 3 years or 4 years. So he says Steve Sarkisian's openness about how they view guys is really cool. His comment on Christian Clark got my attention. Just, Bobby, I'll let you start first if that's okay. Steve Sarkisian's an open book. I mean, he's been through a lot, and perhaps some of the things that he's done to get himself to the position he's in today as both a human being and as a professional football coach are reasons why he is as open as he is, because he's had to face some things. And perhaps that's what we're seeing when he talks to us. He's very open and just kind of has his heart on his sleeve. I don't know if that's going to ultimately always be a good thing, because sometimes you want to keep some things under wraps, but the guy's pretty amazing in those news conferences, right? He kind of tells you the straight story, doesn't he?
Comes off as genuine. That's for sure. And Rod this goes back to something Rod said. He's talking about respect with Jeff Banks's comment earlier today. A coach expects to be respected, right? But not every coach lives it every day and is honest and open with the players. I mean, we know that. We've seen examples of that. Really good coaches sometimes aren't that way.
Yeah.
I get the feeling that Steve Sarkisian actually tries to live it a little bit. I mean, he's got the respect of his players. I don't think he misleads them. I've told this story, but there are a couple of guys last year during a time when they could easily have portaled and left Texas. Steve Sarkisian gave them a scathing review. He wanted to keep those players. okay, at midterm. But he said, look, you're not doing enough. And those players came back, and stayed and tried to make something of themselves. And so he's honest and open with these players. It's not that he dislikes them. He wants their respect, but he's going to give them the respect of being honest with them. I mean, these are guys like Malik Murphy is a great example. Steve Sarkisian respects Malik Murphy. Otherwise, he wouldn't have told him, hey, I understand that you need to go. He could have sat there and begged him to stay, and the young man probably would have stayed. But he didn't think that was what was best for him. I mean, Rod, that's a unique relationship between coach and player that usually is only seen in the pros. And the reason it's usually only seen in the pros is because the pros, it's very cut and dry. We pay you this amount, you do this work, we're going to work together. Whereas in high school or college, it's not as cut and dry. And so kids are still kids at that time. Do you think about Steve Sarkisian that he kind of evokes that idea behind his players I know you've talked to some guys behind the scenes as well. Do you get that sense?
Yeah, I mean, I like what you said earlier. No, he is genuine. I've talked about it. He's one of the only coaches, and he just includes Mac Brown. I love Mac Brown. Since I've been covering Texas football, which is 16 years now, that I actually pay attention to their media availabilities. Truth is, and I love Coach Brown. Coach Harmon was a good man, and I've had great conversations with Coach Harmon, off the air and kind of off the record. And Charlie Strong didn't give you much either. Those guys didn't give you anything at media availabilities, really. They didn't. It was coach speak, and I honestly didn't even bother listening to them on the songs. I was like, man, it's just coach speak. They're not going to give you any nugget. If anything, they give you any little tidbit, it'll blow up because they never give you anything. Mac Brown used to basically hold filibusters at the damn media availabilities, and you never even get that question in. Stark will take a question that CJ asked him and go on a 5-minute, soliloquy about and go off on different tangents and talk about things because he is very open and he's genuine and he's authentic. That's just one example of it. And I do believe when he goes into the locker room with his team, with his coaches, I think he's the very same way. I think it is from his time with his struggles, and he had to go through his struggles openly. It wasn't something he could do in the privacy of his own home or with his family in private. No, his struggles were it was an open matter. All right, we all got a chance to watch him go through his struggles, deal with his adversity, and overcome it, by the way. And that's part of your testimony. Matter of fact, that is your testimony. Look at where you are now. You're among Kalen DeBoer, who's the fastest rising star in college football in terms of the coaching ranks, Nick Saban, the GOAT, and Jim Harbaugh, the ultimate cheating ball coach, but he's still the ball coach. Nobody's had more success at the college and the pro level in terms of still coaching right now presently than Jim Harbaugh. All right, that's a ball coach, baby. And Sark, who was once a prodigy, is now back where he probably should have been anyway, and maybe ahead if he didn't have to deal with the struggles. But if he didn't deal with the struggles and the adversity, would he be who he is today?
Nope.
I don't think so. He would tell you that right now too.
Sure. And
that's why I think he is so open and he's so authentic with the players, and he's all about respect because he went through it. And it was like I said, he's an open book because he had to go through it openly. And I admire that about him. And he's courageous in that aspect about his culture, and he's willing to take some risks to protect his culture. And I think, and those risks have all paid off for him so far.
Hey, Bobby's got an announcement to make, maybe pretty soon here. Not yet, but
not me. Not me.
Okay.
I don't have it. I think D'Alen Evans is announcing something at 5:00 on his Twitter, probably.
Yeah.
Hey, I meant to say this about Christian Clark. I didn't mean to evade that question. Yeah. I told y'all that I like this guy. I've told y'all I liked him back in the summer before he even committed.
I remember that.
There is a reason that Tashard Choice skipped over 8 high school running backs in the state of Texas to pick Christian Clark out of Phoenix and Jarrett Gibson out of Gainesville, Florida. I mean, we can say what we want, but he likes those two guys. Go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, no, to the original question, did you see Sarkeesian's quote about him? He wrote down on his evaluation card of Christian Clark, quote, Bijan Robinson, ? And that alone should give you the idea of how much confidence they have in him as a player, because we just watched for 3 straight years the magic that Bijan would bring to DKR every single Saturday, basically. So to earn those praise, or that level of praise that soon after Texas just watched Bijan depart as the number 7, number 8 pick in the NFL draft, should give you every indication that that's a special player and there are high expectations for him on the 40 acres.
Hey, we have a super chat, but it's a little personal to Rod here. So let's show you, Matthew, what he got. He says, CSM 101 says, hey, Rod, I sent you a rookie card to autograph at the Horn. Never got it back. So just look at your pile of fan mail and see if you can find that and maybe get it back to CSM 101.
All right, CSM 101. Like you said, at the Horn, we're not, honestly, right now, we're not even in the same place. A lot going on there. I'm not going to save y'all the trouble. I'll say this, though, CSM 101. If you hit me up on Twitter, at Rod Davis on the Twitterverse, and try to hit me up and shoot me a DM, CSM 101, or Instagram, we'll look it up. I got my wife, actually, one of my birthday or Christmas surprise a few years ago, she went on like eBay and bought all my rookie cards. She like bought a ton of them. She like bought a lot of it. They ain't cost her much. They ain't cost her probably it cost about $5 to buy like 30 of them. I mean, I don't know what they worth. But anyway, she bought a lot of them. And so I got some extra ones. If you didn't get it back, I'll hook you up and I'll send it to you. Just drop me a DM so I can get your address. Boom. Yeah.
How about that?
I can't guarantee I got it or when it was sent. I can rectify that though. I will. Thank you.
Hey, I'm laughing, and I'm the one that doesn't have a rookie card, by the way. I'm just jealous. I'm actually jealous.
Hey, one of my rookie cards, they got the wrong player on there. It's a different player, and it says my name. So I got 3 rookie cards, and one of them is mistaken identity. That's my legacy. In a nutshell.
CJ, you had a question. You asked Sark a question during the presser that I thought really elucidated a lengthy response. What was the question, and what did you hear back from him?
Yeah, no, it was a great response by Sark, and I'm thankful that he was able to go into depth. But I wanted to know from his perspective, because it's been a hurdle that Texas has faced seemingly since the last run to the national championship in 2009. Texas, for as big of a program it is and how much attention it elicits, has kind of fallen short in terms of, 1, developing NFL quality talent, and 2, finding victories on the football field. And for a long time, especially when I first started covering recruiting, that's been kind of a sentiment that's been shared in the high school ranks with prospects and recruits that are considering Texas, have offers by Texas, are from the state of Texas. That perception that Texas isn't, on that level of, a national program that can get guys to the league has, kind of been a prevailing issue. So Sarkeesian went into depth, and he said, when I took this job, I wanted to find the best staff at developing players for the next level. And we've seen that as the years have gone on under Sarkeesian's tenure at Texas. They sent 5 guys to the league last year, 2 of them running backs, 2 of them defensive linemen. Obviously, DeMarvio and Overshone in that mix as well. This year, we're looking at a plethora of guys, 2 wide receivers, an offensive lineman perhaps, maybe a tight end, running back at Jonathan Brooks. Everywhere that you look on this field, Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat as well. There are so many guys that you can look at in this Texas roster right now to say, hey, the results are changing. This isn't the Texas that it was before Steve Sarkisian got here. And, he kind of mentioned, that's no longer an issue that he's facing on a day-to-day. Yeah, some of these kids are a bit young. They haven't really experienced Texas win on a national stage, but Texas is 12-1 right now. They're playing for a national championship, birth January 1st. And one thing that really stood out to me is the trust that is building between him and the high school coaches that he deals with on a daily basis is huge, because, at the end of the day, who are these kids really sitting down with if they don't have, someone in their corner that has gone through the ringer in terms of what it's like to have a high school recruitment go the distance. These high school coaches are believing in the Texas staff. They're sitting down and they're saying, that's not a bad place to send your kid anymore, because 1, they're winning on the football field, and 2, they're becoming great people in the Texas locker room. and 3, above all, they're getting the opportunity to develop into being NFL quality players. So it was a great answer. I was very happy that he was able to go into depth and really provided, some great behind the scenes of what it's like to recruit as the head coach of the University of Texas. So really cool. And, it's part of what makes today and, the press conference that he does annually on National Signing Day so cool.
And I can speak to that. Just last week, I was in the Waco area at Connolly High School where Kobe Black announced his commitment to Texas. And I talked to Terry Garrick, the head coach at Connolly, and he said exactly the same thing. Terry Joseph, especially the defensive backs coach, he said that Coach Joseph's been an amazing representative of the University of Texas and Coach Sarkeesian. They couldn't have had a better relationship with Coach Joseph, and watching the way that Sark and the staff works with the high school coaches and the players and develops them, because, Connolly's had a couple of kids, Jelani McDonald and Trey Wisner, of course, before he went to DeSoto, was a Connolly cadet as well. So they've sent 3 kids from their high school to Texas in the last couple of years. So that shows you what that school thinks of Coach Sarkeesian and what his staff is doing developmental wise. So I heard firsthand from a coach there. So yeah, it's legitimate. The coaches are buying into what Sark's message is. So it's nice to see that.
I want to add this one other piece of that's important. Players recruit players.
Mm-hmm. True.
So you think, and this is key, not only at a place like Waco Connolly where Texas has grabbed 3, but what about a DeSoto? What about a Duncanville? Right, where you're starting to see not just one guy but multiples. They're going to places where they're being told, "Yeah, it's okay here. Yeah, I like it here." Mm-hmm. Just keep that in mind as you see more and more guys from a particular school end up at Texas. Players recruit players, and I think that's a key aspect, Ray, like you're talking about from Waco Connolly.
Sure. Hey, Matthew, by the way, if you've been hearing some dings in the background, that's Matthew, our producer. He's a big Florida State fan, and he's not so happy this afternoon. I guess some other schools are stealing those Seminole recruits. So you might see some naughty words pop on the screen here. I don't know if he wants to share with his true feelings.
Florida State and Florida had a bad day.
Yeah.
Now, Florida State did not have the bad day that Florida had. Florida State just lost a couple. They lost one to Georgia, I think, one to just now to Miami. But Florida got pillaged in the last month, including by Texas. But we'll see how it all comes out. I mean, Florida State still got a top 10 class. It's Florida, though. At least they kept Derek Lagway, the quarterback out of Willis. If they would have lost him, I'm not so sure Billy Napier makes it to January.
So he did sign.
They could not afford that. I mean,
Lagway did end up signing. I know that there was some.
Yes, he did end up signing with Florida.
All right. So if Coach Riley out at USC wanted to steal him, he didn't get that done. Hey, Burt Reynolds Jr., he's always one of my favorite posters. He's a frequent flyer in our chats. And he had a question here, which is pretty interesting because we do see Georgia and Alabama near the top. This was at 4:53. It's in our starred batch there, Matthew. Matthew might be distracted by cussing out what's going on with Florida State right now. But how big of a difference is having a 1 and 2 class, let's say what Alabama and Georgia does every year, versus a top 4 and 5 class, which is what we've had, maybe Clemson. Alabama stacked 4 classes, ranked first, second in the last 4 years. And how different is that than what we've got going on at Texas currently? Can those top 2, can that extremely high echelon make that much of a difference from just a couple of levels lower? What's your thoughts on that, Bobby and CJ?
It is a difference. Go ahead, CJ.
Go
ahead, buddy.
I'll take it. I was going to say it's in large part the athleticism, kind of the gap that you get from being, that blue chip high 4-star, 5-star kind of guy. We talked about it earlier. 5-star guys walk into a room and you instantly notice the build, the physique. And when you turn on the film, it matches that. There's a lot of guys that look like Tarzan and play like Jane. These 5-star kind of guys that boost recruiting rankings into that number 1 and number 2 category. They're the guys that, fit the whole picture if you're Tarzan. So that's part of it. I'd liken it like this, for Texas this year, there's been guys that have gone down to injury. And instead of, filling spots with, a former walk-on or a guy that may not have had the highest, coveted recruitment back in high school, You're now filling them with guys like Malik Muhammad or Derek Williams, guys who were wanted by everybody. And you see the immediate impact. And so it's more a depth thing in terms of, filling in as seasons progress and guys depart, whether it be for the portal or for the NFL, you're always going to have that stacked kind of cubby or cupboard, basically, of guys that you can have at your disposal to plug and play and not see a drop off in athleticism and speed and physique and obviously football IQ. And that's really where the importance of having these, high IQ blue chip caliber prospects come in that we've seen Texas sign so many of today.
Hey, speaking of cupboard, I love Trey Owens the other day. CJ, you were on the call with Bobby. You interviewed Trey Owens. And at the end, he said he was, 6'5", 235. And you said, spending a lot of time in the weight room. He said, or the pantry. So,
nice.
How poised is he's 17 years old, I'm assuming 18. For a kid like that to have that comeback, I was just blown away by what a clever comeback that was. So I wish I had comebacks like that as well.
Awesome. That's good.
So, hey, Rod, what are you seeing from Xavier Filsaime? I know that he's a safety and you're a cornerback, but what do you see on tape from him? Because I know that he's one of the guys that could step in immediately and help us.
Yeah, I mean, even, Sark talked about it, right? That I believe his comment was the DBs in his class that he recruited, they got size, length, and the ability to play man coverage, right? Whether it's safety or corner. So it's pretty clear they're prioritizing guys who can cover. And that's what Xavier Filsaime can do. He can cover from the slot. He's also a guy I think projects, has a skill set that if you need him to play nickel, he can play nickel. That basically means he can cover. He's got feet and got nice hips like a corner, fluid hips like a corner, not a lot of wasted movement, getting out of his breaks. It really kind of reminds you a lot of Derek Williams. I mean, I think that's really the projected future for their two safety spots will be, Derek Williams and Xavier Filsaime, two safeties who can cover pretty much like corners, and they're never at a matchup disadvantage when it comes to teams who are trying to isolate them. Teams did that a lot against Texas this year, 3-by-1 set. So the safety's got to cover that number 3 wide receivers. Formation in the boundary, isolate Jaron Thompson or Taft Daddy, or isolate Keaton Crawford on the boundary side, on the short side, and that way you can go to work. Even Oklahoma State did that. They did that a lot, as a matter of fact. And they were able to get some yards with that slot receiver, as Presley in the slot. You can do that against Texas because a lot of their safeties are coverage liabilities. You get these guys in here, and your coverage specialists now at the safety position allow you to be a lot more malleable on defense. When teams try to isolate your safeties, go by 3-by-1 sets, formation and boundary, they won't necessarily find a matchup advantage because those guys will be just as good as cover guys as your corners. By the way, this is not some new thing. Coach Akina did this when I was on the 40 acres. When he had to come up with an evolutionary adaptation to the air raid offense, Coach Akina decided, you know what? I need corners basically at safety. That's why our safeties were Nathan Basher and Ahmad Brooks, two guys who played corner the previous year. And me and Quentin Jammer, we ended up being the corners, all right, in that offense. So you had corners basically all around that secondary, prioritizing coverage. Guys, it's like fashion. It's cyclical. Football is too. Mm-hmm. They're coming back now. Mm-hmm. They want corners and prioritizing coverage across the board. Xavier Filsaime gives you that.
There you go.
And he also mentioned, by the way, that Kobe Black is a 3-position player. So
wow.
What did Robbie tell you? They're prioritizing versatility, manufacturing depth in the secondary, because they don't want guys to get isolated because, Ryan Watts is only a boundary. He's only a boundary corner. This guy is only a boundary safety. This guy's only a field safety. Our nickels don't travel, which they don't do now. And that's how you're getting isolated and exposed. The more malleable, more versatile your defenders are, the fewer matchup advantages the offense will get. And he just said it in the press conference. Kobe Black, 3-position player, people. We're going back to exactly when I played on the 40 acres. Coach Akina called them 5 tool DBs. They're the same thing. Guys who can play damn near anything. I'm recruiting DBs in the secondary, not just recruiting corners. Remember, Kobe Black kept saying, I'm a cornerback on social media. And then Sark's like, he's a DB. Yeah. I'll tell you what the hell he is. He's a DB.
A little bit of everything.
The signing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hey, I think that recently some of those recruitment thefts that Miami had with Florida State may have moved the Hurricanes. They leapfrogged us a little bit there, but we're still in the top 5, I believe, right, Bobby? So we're probably still in that nice high cotton, as they like to say there. So there we are there, but maybe we'll get some news coming out of Jasper this evening. No promises. That might change that, and we'll see. But
Well, you look at the average rating there, and Texas actually stays in the top four. Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia, then Texas. But Miami with 27 commitments, clearly having a big recruiting year. They just took a defensive lineman away from Florida State. That was a big pickup for the Hurricanes. They're closing very strong. They tried to get Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver, out of Hollywood Chaminade High School down in South Florida. He actually ended up sticking with Ohio State. So the Hurricanes and Mario Cristobal trying to get back in that top echelon of college football, but we'll see if they can put it together on the field.
okay. Nothing on Dylan Evans today, apparently. So we'll see what he does in the near future, but I don't think we'll have anything here in the next hour or so. So that's going to do it for us. For this particular segment, we're going to take a little time off, maybe about an hour, and come back post 6:15, before 6:30 certainly, because that's when Anthony Smith over in Jasper is supposed to announce what his plans are and put pen to paper, because it is that day, right? So thank you so much for joining us here on Texas Football. For Rod Babers, Bobby Burton, CJ Vogel, I'm Ray Peters. We really appreciate you joining us. Again, we'll be back in about an hour with Ty Anthony Smith. And then I think Rod and I, and maybe, I don't know who else is going to be on the call.
I think
here.
it'll be
Bob,
CJ for sure. But CJ's got to, one of the reasons we're leaving y'all right now is CJ's getting kicked out of Newhouse.
Yeah.
He's got to go.
We'll see you back. We'll see you about an hour. Yeah, but thank you so much for everything. And we'll see you in a little bit with more tonight. We're not going anywhere, just for a little bit. Take care.
Welcome, guys.
Welcome.